Right, well, hello people. I promised that I would do a magical musical moments on the song Afternoon Delight. Afternoon Delight was featured in Good Will Hunting, which is one of my favourite films of all time. Um, it appears in the soundtrack, and it also appears as part of the movie where Matt Damon's lying on a therapist's couch and he's making up some cock and bull story about him, some awful experience in childhood, and then suddenly he starts singing Afternoon Delight, and and everybody's really annoyed with him, whatever. Okay, now it appears to be a very superficial song, and in many ways it is, but it has an extra layer to it, which is the thing that I want to sort of try and find out, and and really to try and sort of work out why it is that when the song plays in the credits at the end of at the end of Good Will Hunting, when Matt Damon is driving up an American highway in a beaten up old car, looking for Minnie Driver, who was the girlfriend that in his film that he was at that point estranged from. We never found out whether they got it together in the end. But suddenly, why on earth are we blubbering again? Because we'd have had a chance to get a bit emotional at the "It's Not Your Fault" scene. Then, before the ending of the film, there's a little bit of time to gather yourself together, blow your nose and all that sort of thing. We get Elliott Smith singing Miss Misery. Elliott Smith's a brilliant singer, but he's too downright miserable for us to get emotional about and to start bursting into tears about. And then suddenly Afternoon Delight comes on, which is a really sort of happy, fun-loving song, and why are we in tears again? And what is it about that song which A, ties in with the movie Good Will Hunting, but B, has this effect on us anyway, even if you were to divorce it from the film, because obviously it wasn't written for the film, it was written for the Starland vocal band in the 1970s. The two people that wrote it, there's mainly one bloke who wrote it, but I think he wrote it about his wife and something, she had a bit of input at the time. But basically it was about, let's get a bit jiggy, basically. Afternoon Delight being a euphemistic term for a bit of what and a bit of How's Your Father, matron. So let's have a look then at first of all the chord structure of it. Okay, now I'm not going to really sort of tell you exactly what the chords are or anything, but let's just say that the verses, and when I'm talking about the verses, I mean the bit that goes, thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight, rubbing sticks and stones together makes the sparks ignite, and the thought of rubbing you is getting so exciting. So you've got two bits of the same phrase, or the same melodic phrase there, okay, and they're over two sets of chords, F, G minor 7 and C, and those chords are they have no problem in working together. Okay, there's nothing unexpected there, nothing out of the ordinary at all, and the lyrics themselves are happy in the fact that they're anticipating the fact that we are going to get it together for a bit of what's it. Okay, and so what you haven't got at that moment is what I would suggest is the in pop music, it's the thing that makes pop music interesting, and that is the drama of either sort of slightly tense lyrics against happy music, or the other way around. You've got sort of two happy bits basically. Okay, you have a chorus which goes, sky rockets in flight, afternoon delight, afternoon delight. Okay, now it's interesting here because you have again very anticipatory lyrics here. Okay, nothing wrong with it. Sky rockets in flight. That means we can make fireworks together, people. And then afternoon delight. The chords there move into the relative minor key of the song. I think the song's in F. certainly my recorded version of it is in F, so it's going into D minor at that point. Now minor keys tend to be a bit sadder. So why is it going into sadness at Afternoon Delight? Okay, because although we've had this, because I've missed a chunk out here, and the bit that I've missed a chunk out is the magical musical moment, and it will become clearer in a second. All right, so although we've had these anticipatory lyrics about the fact that we're going to meet together, okay? There is in the sort of in the subtext of the song there is this sort of thing that it might not happen. It's a bit like a child that wants a toy now and doesn't want to wait for their birthday, because if they get it now, it's fulfilling that need straight away. Okay, waiting for the birthday, they might not get it, or they might not want it. Okay, and so in this song, the subtext is, I might not want it, you might not want it, we might not get it. Something might happen that stops this thing from going on. Okay, so where in the chorus we're moving into that minor key, it's just to add just this tiny little bit of doubt in our minds that, as to whether or not this thing is going to happen. Okay, now, so we've got the verses and choruses there, and those are basically it, except the magical musical moments for me, which are the two little bridge passages, and they only happen twice. Okay, we've got 4 verses and 3 choruses and lots of repetitions of the words Afternoon Delight coming everywhere. Okay, but beg your pardon, there are 2 little bridges, and that is where the doubt is sort of is sown. Okay, and it's sown in 2 ways. Okay, first of all, we have the harmonies. Now, as I said, the verse chords, there's no problem with the way that those chords link together. Okay, or anything about them, or how they relate to the lyrics. Okay, but when we move to the bridge passage, or to bridge passage number 1, okay, what we have is a move from chord 5, which in F is F, G, A, B flat, C. Okay, so chord 5 is a chord of C, to chord 4, which is B flat. Okay, now chord 5 to 4. Now we're going to go back. Now we're going to tread back through the annals of history, and we're going to go back to monastic times. Now, in the times of the monks, where really, music was the preserve of them, because everybody else was a thug, basically, or a soldier, or a peasant, or something like that. And if you wanted to learn anything like music or writing or reading, you went to the monasteries. Now, if you learnt music at that time, you would learn that certain chord progressions and certain intervals or combinations of notes were heavenly. They were of God. The others were of Satan, because they aroused a sort of lustful tendencies. Okay, and one of the chord progressions which arouse lustful tendencies is chord 5 to chord 4, and in fact even now, for music students who are studying classical music harmony, they are taught to avoid that chord progression, not because of the lustful tendencies, but because it's certainly in the books that I studied, it was considered rather ungainly to do it. But in fact, I don't think it's ungainly at all. I think it's downright sexy and nice, and that is what is being stirred in us. Okay, the fact that we've got chord 5 going to chord 4. Okay, when everything's a little clearer in the light of day. Okay, chord 5 on light of day, and then back to chord 4. When we know that it's always gonna be here anyway, and back to chord 5, and then back to 1. Thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Afternoon delight, chord 5. Rubbing sticks and stones together makes the sparks ignite, and the thought of rubbing you is getting so exciting. Back to, say, chord 5 on exciting, and then into da 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 da, and back to that chord 5-4 progression again, or chord 4-5 progression again. All right. Now those words at that point are the niggling of it as a doubt. everything's a little clearer in the light of day. In other words, while we can see it, it's fine. The night is always going to be here anyway. Okay, times might not be good at the moment. We're at a good time. Okay, but we know that there's always around us. There's so much sadness. So why should we wait for a time? You know, when we're sad, let's do it while we're happy, and you know, and while things are good. All right. Very beautiful, and that is also where you get some sumptuous string chord progressions in the background there. Okay, later on in the song, and this is where, for me, this is the big lump in the throat. All right, we've had an instrumental break on a slide guitar, and the slide guitar sounds actually quite sad. And usually, instrumental breaks usually express a song's inner pain, okay, and try and sort of imitate the human voice or human tears, okay. And the slide guitar here actually doesn't really sound all that happy. It doesn't sort of fill you with a great big smile. It's a bit sad, okay, and it's leading up to the point, the climax of the song. The bit for me which gives me the lump in the throat or the tingle down the spine, and it's exactly the same chord progression. The instrumental break is the same chords as the verse, suddenly going into this chord called 4-5-4-5 bit, but the words, "Be here waiting for me, baby, when I come around. We can make a lot of loving when the sun goes down." In other words, you know, there is still this slight as that much that you might not be there, that I could be stood up, okay? And it's this need here for human beings to connect, all right? Now, in the 1970s, I suppose, yes, there was a lot of sadness. There always is a lot of sadness in life. But there wasn't the alienation from human beings, which is gradually sort of, you know, encroaching on us today with more and more and more. And I think, yes, I love technology. I love my iPhone and I love my computers and whatever, and my keyboards and all that sort of thing. Yeah, that's all great and fantastic, and isn't it also convenient and everything? But there is something about it which is making us more and more insular as people. Internet shopping means that for a lot of things we never even have to leave the house. Okay, we are finding more and more that when we're trying to deal with our day-to-day life, that trying to speak to a human being is getting more and more difficult. I gave up trying to speak. I was trying to speak to somebody from the electoral roll the other day. The electoral roll, for those of you who are not in the UK, is where, you know, if you want to be registered to vote, then you have to be on this particular register, and I had a query about it, and I phoned them up, and I couldn't get anybody at all to speak to, and I gave up in the end. And that is multiplied by 100 times 1 and million, 100 times a million. You know, the banks, you know, trying to speak to somebody at a bank, if you want a decision, you know, about a loan or anything like that, then it's, will the computer tell you? You know, you've got a human being in the room, but they will check it with the computer, and if the computer says no, like the Little Britain computer says no, it's not sort of, you know, pie in the sky. This is, you know, somebody else, you know, putting the computer in so that we can hide behind it, so that when all these bad decisions and things are being made, or when a mistake happens, it was our computers. Okay, there were some banks in the UK recently that, you know, that they had a computer breakdown and everyone's transactions all went squiffy and what have you, you know, and you know, 20 years ago when the Starland vocal band were doing it, you wouldn't have had that. You would have had people writing things down, and you know, perhaps you just wouldn't have had this piece of technology to hide behind. And that is the point, that, you know, it's just the fact that nowadays people are getting more and more alienated from one another and from one another's company, all right? So that when you get a romantic film where people, you know, do get together or don't get together or whatever, suddenly the whole thing takes on a lot more significance, because it is so bloody hard these days to, to make any connections whatsoever. you know, with other human beings, and people walk around, you know, and you know, whether it's good or bad, but people just ignore one another. You know, somebody can have an accident in the street or something like that, and a lot of people will just walk past because they are too damn scared. Okay, and in this song, Afternoon Delight, we've had a whole film about someone who really cannot connect with other human beings because of whatever experiences in his life. He cannot connect with other human beings. You see him every single opportunity he gets, he throws away. Even the experience of Minnie Driver, who is his girlfriend, is being sort of, you know, he's, you know, tossed that in a ditch because he cannot confront his own inner demons first of all, right? And then suddenly this song, which is really, really light-hearted, suddenly comes on at the end, but the significance of it, plus those sexy little chords, suddenly put the lump in the throat and you know, just sort of, you know, set you off again, as it were. Okay. Now, also within those two chord 5/4 progressions, the second one has some really, really delicious harmonies. Okay. When I did my cover version, I couldn't sing them, so I made my tense moment. I made the instrumental break even more tense than it is on the on the on the proper record, probably by, you know, the listener thinking, when on earth is this really embarrassing bit ever going to be finished? But basically, I had a violin or a violin sound on my keyboard playing wrong notes, and the piano also playing wrong notes against this background. All right, which sort of brought a, you know, quite a lot of tension, and then suddenly. I changed the words slightly because I can't really sing all those harmonies. I changed the words to "Please be waiting for me," so that, you know, I've added a little bit extra in the tension there. That perhaps, you know, you might not be there unless I'm actually begging you to be there. But in that first line, "Please be waiting for me, baby," and then you've got some female harmonies going, "Come around." In the top of their voices, and then "We can make a lot of loving before the sun goes down." And in the video that I made, I just about managed to get that top note in there, but in the background there's going to go "Wee," like that, and that is like a yelp of delight. That is a pure yelp of, oh, isn't it exciting? It's going to be amazing, you know. So, you know, it's that particular bit, "Please be waiting for me, baby," even though it's the same chord progressions, and yeah, it's a little bit sort of soppy at the first time it comes around, but that second time it comes around after the instrumental break, which is quite tense in itself, and then suddenly this pleading from you suddenly makes this magical musical moment, and, you know, it's really wonderful to behold. If you want to have a look at my cover version, I'll probably put it in the video response at some point. But it's on my channel. You'll probably see it anyway, in the related videos or whatever they call it nowadays. And yeah, thanks for watching this, and I hope that, you know, you enjoy that song as well, and enjoy my cover version, even though it's perfectly terrible. Bye bye.